All right, so I don't know why I always say this, but back out here in the garage today. Like I mentioned in the last video, I need, and am going to get new rear gears. So I've taken the rear end out, it's sitting over there on some dollies. Gonna take that to the rear end shop. Some friend of a friend of my dad's friend has a rear end shop and he can narrow rear ends, so that's the plan for that. And I was gonna wait till the winter to go ahead and do this, but I can't. I want to get it done. What I'm gonna be doing is I want to get those trencher tires inside my bedsides, and I cannot stand that, like when the tires stick out, because I want it lower and I can't lower it anymore because the tires obviously stick out past the bedsides. And in some of those videos, you get the dirt drags, they cut their bedsides out, and no thank you. I care about this truck somewhat. It's not that bad. It's, you know, I mean, the truck is solid. The frame's solid. The body's solid. I'm not going to go hack the shit out of the outside of my bedsides. Now, that being said, I'll get to that later actually. But what I'm going to do to get the tires and wheels inside the bedside is take the leaf spring from the driver's side, put it on the passenger side, it's backwards. Passenger side, put it on the inside of the frame on the driver's side, and then take the driver's side one and put it on the inside of the frame of the passenger side, and then get my rear end narrowed. I was thinking about this over and over again. 4 links went through my head and blah, 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 blah. All the 4-link bolt-on 4-link kits that I found, you have to put them on the outside of the frame, which there's probably one out there that you guys know of that, you know, the wishbone or whatever, and you can do it on the inside. But this is the easiest way, the cheapest way, in my opinion, to narrow your rear track width and pretty much use all your stock parts. Now, that being said, the rear mounts, I'm gonna do sliders. It's where when you launch, the rear mount can slide back. I found some from All Star Performance that actually have bearings on them, kind of like a skateboard bearing, you know, reds from back in the day. Come on, guys, you know what I'm talking about. But I'm gonna do that in the rear. Obviously, the first step to doing this is you're gonna want to get all your tail lights, and these go to the rear canister on the gas tank, and then these go to that's the ground. These go to the sending unit. You're gonna want to get all that out of your way. So I just ran all this stuff up here, out and forward and out of the way, because you guessed it, I'm gonna have to drop the gas tank in order to do that. Now, me and my dad have conversations about this. I'm a mini trucker at heart. You know what you do with your gas tank when you need it moved? You throw it in the back of the bed, up there by the back of the cab, but in the bed. So if worse comes to worse, that's what I'm gonna do. I don't really care. I mean, maybe get like a stainless or aluminum piece to go over it and call it good, at least for the next race. I wanna maybe get a fuel cell to where I can just use my stock sending unit and just drop it in, and then maybe use that ring or bolt it into the top of the fuel cell, because everything in there is, I mean, it's off the stock sending unit. It has a Whirlpool pump in it, but it's adapted to the stock sending unit. So I just want to utilize that as long as I can. Not making that much power. It's probably, I don't know, north of 6, south of 7, somewhere around there. So I don't really need to upgrade my fuel system yet. That being said, I don't think that turbo's maxed out, but on the stock ECU, I'm pushing about as much power as I can. So I've got the brake lines out. I've got all the tail light wiring out, sending unit wiring out, obviously. So I've got this unbolted. This should just slide out. Yeah, it should just slide out. Let me grab my enforcer. Plug your ears. This is just I don't know, I think it's out of like a F-250 or something. But we made it to fit this frame. I am, after I get all the leaf springs and everything situated, I don't know if you can see that very well, but I'm gonna try to do that. Maybe shorten this a little bit so it's not as high, but I wanna be able to drop my tailgate. And right now when I put the lead on it, the tailgate hits the lead because it's just in the back of this. And I think I'm just gonna cut like little squares in the bed over there, and then in the frame obviously, and maybe get some square tubing and drop it down in the frame, and then put a pin up above the bed floor to where I can just drop this down in there, slide the pin in, and then I can stack all my lead right here. That way I can still drop my tailgate, and yeah, I think that would just be better. And that way it's easily removable. And when I took this out, I was thinking when we put this in, shout out to my dad, because I wanted to just weld this in. But he's like, oh no, what if you ever want to take it out? I was like, oh, I'll never do that. It's gonna be in there forever, you know? But here we are, and thank God it was bolted in, because if I had to cut this out, it would have sucked. But next step, drop the gas tank. It wasn't too bad, obviously. With the bed off, it's much easier, but yeah, other than that, for now, I'm just gonna go ahead and clean up like the little stuff. I'll probably get rid of this bar just to make it look better. I really like this. It already looks better without the gas tank in it. I want to eventually clean this frame up a lot and probably just shoot it with some, I don't know, engine paint, black engine paint or something. But yeah, I'm just gonna go ahead and cut out all the little stuff I don't need. Like this tray right here is for the spare tire. Obviously I don't need that. And when I cut that bar out, anyone who's familiar with these trucks, or even like, I think it's pretty much any GM truck. Hopefully you can hear me, I got the fan on, 1 second. Pretty much any GM truck they got the one shock going forward and then the one shock going back. So I'm just gonna cut that mount off and then measure from there, and then just weld that over here and have them both going from the back. That way I can get rid of that ugly ass bar up there. I'm probably gonna get rid of that tray up there too that holds the little canister deal, but I can cut that off because it's not gonna be under the bed anymore. But I have my makeshift drive shaft loop out of some flat stock bolted to it, so I'll probably just the plasma cutter I have, and that'll probably be it for tonight. I'm obviously gonna, try to clean this frame up the best I can. We didn't do a real bang up job on this notch, but she's solid. I promise you, that thing ain't going nowhere. That thing probably weighs 100 pounds with both the sides. But even like the outside, I'm gonna probably grind that down, weld a circle in there so it's not open, and like all these little holes, I have little cutouts from work. I cut on the laser, put those in the side of the frame, weld those in, grind them down so it's all smooth. And yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and get to cutting that stuff off and then move farther along as we go. I got this shock mount off. Don't touch it, it's really hot. It's kind of rough. I'm gonna have to clean that up. And then take some measurements and try to get it the same or really, really close to how that one is. The angle has a slight angle in it. As you can see, it's kind of angled that way a little bit. So I'll just match that over here on this side, and then have both the shock, or both the shocks, but they're like struts going down to the rear end. I'll obviously have to also move the lower shock mount on the rear end, but I'll probably do that after I get it narrowed and everything. I'm gonna go ahead and knock that off too tomorrow. We're gonna call it a night tonight. It's getting kind of late. Gotta go to work tomorrow, but yeah, slowly making progress. So I'll pick back up tomorrow evening. Out here for our nightly walk after work, and we'll head back to the shop and get to work when we rock. All right, we back out here. Leveled the frame to the floor. I have took all my measurements where the existing leaf spring hangers are. Relative to, I use this front bed mount right here, and then I measure to the front of each hanger on both sides, to the rear of each hanger, and then I measure to the back too, which those will be different because I'm going to do that slider deal, but I still want to know where the existing or non-existent at that point rear hanger would be. So I went ahead and marked all those on the frame with the paint marker, and I also measured, if you can see that, from the center of the bolt hole on the rear to the floor. That way I can at least have an idea where it was at. Just try to think in my head all the measurements that I might need when I'm doing this. So I wanted to get everything squared away before I go hacking all this stuff off. So the next step will probably be, I'm gonna go ahead and get rid of, I think I might have said I was gonna clean this up and weld it, but I'm not. I'm gonna just cut this whole bar out of here because it's ugly. And it should have enough support with this and this bar, so I think we'll be good. And I'm gonna have a plate in the rear to put those hangers on, so we should be good there. I'm gonna cut that off, and then I'm gonna go through the tedious process of cutting and grinding all those rivets that GM uses to put their hangers on, which sucks. The rears probably won't be too bad because we already took two of the rivets out on each side. That's where the hitch was, and then we just ran bolts through there to the hitch. But yeah, that's where I'm at. I've got them all drawn up on the wall. I took measurements and wrote them all down just so I have them in case I need them. The front ones I don't need to measure from the ground up because there's like a little plate underneath the front hanger that just goes up and you butt it up against the frame, and then that's it. That's where, you know, it sets your height up and down on the front hanger. So I'm good there. And yeah, go ahead and get to it. Got that bar out. Got all these smoothed out. Yeah, that one smoothed out. I don't know if I weld a circle in there or not. That might be kind of nice to have like a point to strap it down right there. I don't know. Probably weld it, it'll look better. But yeah. Next, I'll probably do the rear mounts because there's only two in there. The best technique I've found to get these rivets out, some people use air hammers and blah, blah, blah. I'll just take a thin cutoff wheel, which these ones suck. I got these at Harbor Freight, and man, it eats through them very, very quick. But I'll just take it and just do a bunch, just all over it. And then I'll take this, I don't know what you call, what I do with it. Well, where the hell is it? Oh, it's underneath there. It's like a, really hard grinding disc. I would tell you what it says on there, but it's gone. Another one. DeWalt DW4541, whatever that is. Metal grinding. And then I'll just take that and grind it all the way down, and then just take a punch and, you know, hit the rivet out in the inside. That's the best way I found. These Milwaukee cordless grinders are very nice. I love them, but all those batteries are dead. And two of them are the high demands. So if you get one of those, don't throw away old trusty over here, the old plug-in. This thing spins faster anyways. I kind of like using this one better for like taking massive amounts of metal off. It's a skill, I got it at Walmart. It's lasted me years. That thing will smoke out the sides and still rotate, so. Yep, that's the next step. I'm gonna go get the rears off and then I'll do the fronts. There is rivets right here on the frame, you can see. And then this one down here holds this piece that I was talking about to where you butt it up against the frame. So I'm not gonna take that one out. I'm just gonna leave that on here. That way when I slide it over to the other side, I can just take it up to the bottom of the frame, and then I'll always have to weld something in there to mount the hanger to on the inside. But yeah, and then there's one or two where, oh, down there holding that bottom piece onto the frame, so I'll have to grind those out too. But yep, that's the plan. Stay tuned, she's coming along. The time-lapse stop before there's that damn cricket that was making the noise. Ah, got away, damn it. Of course, the time-lapse stop before I dropped the hangers, the leaves, and it didn't show me actually dropping them, but they are off, both sides are off. Some time you're gonna wanna have about 2,000 cutoff wheels and 2 or 3 of those hard grinding wheels, because I don't know what they make these out of, but like titanium or something. I'm just kidding, but yeah, it's a lot of grinding. I don't know why they just didn't use grade 8 bolts. That's what I'm gonna do. Much easier. The holes are still there. So if you don't grind it down to the frame, you know, you just wanna grind the head off and then stop, and you'll see the little outline of the rivet, and then you just take your punch or your air hammer if you have one. I broke mine. I was just using this little deal and my medium-sized enforcer, and 2 or 3 hits and they pop right out. This is what they look like. It's all that holds those in. This front one right here, that one I was just holding, you have to, I had to use my plasma cutter, which is just a little Yes welder, 220 amp, or 220 volt, my bad. Yeah, plasma cutter. I think it was like 350 bucks or something. That thing works excellent. But I couldn't get the grinder in here. And be careful when you use the plasma cutter, because I don't know what this black stuff is. It's like tar, probably like a stock undercoating. But if it gets on you, man, look at my arms. You should probably use some sleeves, because you're gonna look like you've been hitting the light bulb for the past 3 days, which I hope I don't get pulled over, man. Damn. Yeah, anyways, the next step, I'm gonna make a template. You can see where it was. I had it marked on the frame. I'm gonna make a template out of cardboard, down there, and then trace it onto some metal. Maybe probably use the plasma cutter to cut that out, and then weld that on there. And yeah, I'll just transfer the holes. Hopefully my drill bit's long enough. I'll drill from the outside in. That way all the holes are the same. And yep, moving right along. Pick back up tomorrow when I come back out here. Yeah, did for now. All right, got my template cut out of cardboard, transferred it onto that is 11 gauge that I'm gonna be using. I'm gonna weld from the other side of that hole right there, all the way down to up underneath the cab up in there. And then I'm gonna leave that hole open down there, because I'm gonna put spacers in between this piece, like inside the frame. So the bolts have, you know, it's not just sucking this plate in towards the frame. It'll have some structure in the frame to make it more sturdy. And I'm gonna leave that hole open down there in case, because I'm not gonna weld those spacers in. I'm just gonna tighten the bolt up and that'll hold them in. But that way when I take it out, if I ever take those bolts out and they roll forward, I can still get them out of that hole up there. But yeah, we can go ahead and blast this out with the plasma cutter and And then trace another one for the other side. I got another piece of metal over there. But yep, moving right along. All right, real quick, thought I'd mention this. I'm gonna weld these nuts to the frame on the inside where that bottom piece of the leaf hanger mounts up against the frame, because once I weld that filler in right here, there's no way to get in there, obviously, to put a nut on or a bolt, whatever. So I'm just gonna weld those to the frame. Already done this side. Don't judge me, I have a 110 welder and it's kind of hard to clean up the frame in there, but they're in there. I put the bolts in the nuts when I weld them, just to keep the threads safe, and I don't know, some people don't. They say don't put bolts in them, but I do, and it always seems to work for me. So I'm gonna do that, and then gonna edge prime and paint the inside of this, because once I weld it to the frame, I'm not gonna be able to paint it. So yeah, that's where I'm at, and I'll keep moving forward. All right, real quick, I just decided to weld these. Man, that weld looks like shit. These spacers that I'm putting in between the frame, I just decided to weld them in. That way I don't have to mess with like trying to fish them up in there, and yeah, it was gonna be a bad deal. So I'm just gonna weld those in before I weld the filler plate in over here. And to hold them in place, I just ran a bolt through there and tightened it up, and then you weld it and then let it sit for a couple minutes, and then take the bolt back out, and that way you can center it with the hole. Because if the tube is square or whatever on the washer, then you know that it's straight and the hole is perfectly lined up. So yeah, that undercoating on the inside of the frame is terrible to get off. And that's probably why that was kind of welding like crap. That top one welded good, but the bottom one kind of ran a little bit. But now I'm rambling, so yeah, get those welded in, and then do the other side, spray it all with edge primer and black paint, and then weld the filler panels in. Alright, got the insides both painted so those don't rust. Use some rust reformer use this rust reformer. Just Rust-Oleum rust reformer from Walmart, and then spray it over with that. Hit it with this first, then that in the paint. Excuse me. Bush light coming back up. And then that's the passenger side. I painted the inside of it, so still a little wet, but the outside is bare, the inside is painted so it doesn't rust once I weld it up in there. I have no way of painting it. So yep, I think it's time to throw that baby up there and tack her on. Let's go. Alright, so I went ahead and welded the passenger side in solid. Some of these, boy. Damn. And then, as you get shitty, there's a gap back there. And then, damn, that looks like shit down there because it's very hard to do with all that undercoating and stuff. But I got a few dime stacks in there. I'm not a terrible welder, guys. And got that hole filled, the outside as well. That side, the inside. I'm gonna knock this out next. Try to copy that. And yeah, just keep moving right along. I think eventually I might actually cut that bar out too and do a bar like up in the notch. That way the struts and coils are more like straight up and down. Or I might keep that for like the dirt drag setup and then weld a bar across there for like a pavement race. I do want to get some 28 10.5s for it. Tried to break some stuff on the pavement one day, but yeah, moving right along. All right, back out here again. I just put in a couple hours after work every night. Do what I can. I got this side pretty well welded up. Some of those welds are kind of hideous, but the undercoating is a pain in the butt to weld through. If you run into it, it just instantly trashes your weld with a bunch of impurities and it starts bubbling up, and then you gotta grind it off again and blah blah blah. But I mean, I did get some decent ones, right? Decent. And I didn't weld that all the way in because I noticed the frame was creaking, and I didn't really put, I mean, obviously it's the whole frame rail that would be warping. But since I was welding up there, I didn't really think, you know, I would need to strap it down back there. I'm not putting a new notch in it. It's still got this bar, but I just ratchet strapped them down to those jack stands to make sure that the frame rails don't go walking on me. And then I re-leveled it to the floor. You can see it's still level. And I checked it corner to corner and a couple other places and we're still good, but it's kind of scaring me. So I'm just gonna go ahead and let that cool down, come back out here tomorrow and finish welding that side up. Got a bunch of like the little holes in the frame welded up, and I'm gonna finish doing that side tomorrow after I weld that one in. But yep, slowly making progress. All right, finally, man. If I had a better welder, I wouldn't have to do so much damn grinding, but that little 110 gets it done. None of this stuff's going anywhere. It's just take a while to clean it all up. But I got it all edge primed up in the front. I'm letting that dry. Come out here tomorrow and hang the leaf springs. I already put them up in there and made sure that they all the holes line up and everything, which they should. I still have to grind that down tomorrow. I just welded it, so I was tired of grinding. Yeah, I'm not a welder, I'm a grinder apparently. Just gonna throw some Allen bolts that I found in there from mock-up. I haven't had time to go to the hardware store to get grade 8 hardware for it, but man, it doesn't look like much, but I bet that's 15 to 20 hours of work at least. Yeah, so moving right along, I will get the leaf springs on, mock them up to the rear, just do some measurements and kind of, you know, measure to where the eye of the leaf spring should be going. Man, that stuff looks hideous, huh? That was a terrible idea, welding those washers in there, but oh well, I'll make it work. Cut them back off if I have to, but yeah, like I said, measure to the back, make sure the eyelet of the leaf spring is to the stock dimensions, and I'm gonna start there because you gotta think these truck stock have a shackle, so when you put that slider on there, the slider is essentially your shackle because you take the shackle off and bolt your leaf directly to the slider hanger. So I'm gonna measure to where that eyelet was on the hanger, on the stock hanger, and then that's where I'm gonna start with the slider hanger. That way, when it launches back, it can flatten out the leaves and slide back. At least in my head, that makes sense. Hopefully it works. Yeah, pick back up when I come out here tomorrow. All right, here they are. I have them mounted on the new location on the inside. The only thing that I noticed, these holes down here, first of all, that where are they at? That I welded nuts on the inside, those two lined up perfect. I had to drill out a couple of these because they were about, I don't know, 1/8 inch off and the bolt was catching. I didn't want to mess the threads up, so I just ran the 1/2 inch drill bit through there and straightened them out. And as I was saying, the only thing I noticed is that if you look there, that bottom piece I just showed you with the 2 bolts on the bottom is exactly where it was. I don't know if when they were on the outside that rivet may have provided a bit of like a spacer. No big deal. I'm just gonna get an angle gauge. I don't have one. I thought I did, but I can't find it. And put it right there. And then I'll just, when it's, I'll get it to 0, and then I'll measure the gap in there, and then I'll just cut little spacers and throw them in there before I tighten the bolts down. That way I don't go cocking it. If I tighten it right now, it's probably gonna pull it in and it won't be zeroed. And yeah, you don't want that, because then that won't be flat back there either when I go to put the sliders on. But yeah, I'm happy with it, man. I took my time and really made sure I was doing everything right. This side doesn't look so bad. There's a little gap, but I don't know, I might try tightening those bolts a little bit and see if I can suck it in after I get that angle gauge. And I forget what I was saying. Yeah, I was really taking my time and measuring, and I just didn't want to mess it up, man. It's so much easier if you take your time instead of rushing shit. And the end result is a lot better, obviously, because these things pretty much went right in. Like I said, I had to slide the drill bit through there a couple times, but wasn't that big of a deal. I Probably in this video here, because this one's getting a little long, I'll probably make like a part 2 of doing the sliders, and I'm gonna have to modify the bed. So stay tuned, guys. There will be a part 2, and yeah, she's coming right along. We got till September 30th to get this deal done. I still got to get the rear end narrowed and gears for that deal, and I'll probably put that thing in here too. I'm gonna go ahead and do the bed because it's gonna be a big project, and then I'll put the rear end up in here. I did notice that I'm gonna have to cut this shock mount off too, because if you look, she's gonna hit the leaves. So I might have some shock tabs around here. I'll have to dig through my totes over there. I have a lot of old stuff from the air ride days, so maybe I can use those shock tabs that I think I have if I can find them, and you know, move them all in there, and then I'll move on to the rear end, get that all cleaned up, weld tabs down there. Actually, I'll probably just cut everything off of there and then take it to the rear end shop. That way he can do what he needs to do, and he can cut it and narrow it wherever he wants to. I'm not sure where they do that deal. I've never seen it done. And then when I get it back, I can just weld the shock tabs wherever I need them. So, yep, stay tuned. Part 2 coming soon.